Chapter 2. When I woke up, I had no idea where I was. I felt a hard surface behind me, and my head hurt. I tried to move my arm, to touch my head, but someone stopped me and told me to lie still. I couldn't see them, couldn't open my eyes, so I merely groaned. I felt water droplets on my face and figured it was drizzling. I suddenly remembered the tornado. I sat up before anyone could stop me. My eyes were wide open now. I was surrounded by neighbors, including my own roommate. I felt warm wetness on my lip that I knew was not rainwater. I touched it and saw blood on my fingertips. Not surprising. My nose always bleeds when I'm truly scared. I was only surprised it didn't start earlier when I was hiding in the closet. "I don't think you should move," Christy said. "I'm fine. My neck and back are fine." Two neighbors helped me up. "It's not that." I looked at Christy, noticing the worry in her eyes. "What is it?" You were dead." I let that sink in for a moment. There was no way I'd heard correctly. I studied myself, feeling my legs and stomach. I could feel my touch. Nothing hurt but my head. I was alive. How could I have been dead? "Are you sure?" I asked. Christy wasn't a doctor after all. She looked to one of the women who'd helped me up. She was a doctor. She was also the neighbor I'd just saved from the tornado. "I checked your vitals myself," said Dr. Harris. "You were technically dead." She was staring at me like I was a medical miracle. I held out my left wrist. "Am I okay now?" I hoped I didn't sound sarcastic because I truly was concerned. I took a few deep breaths and felt the air in my lungs. I was alive. "Clearly you are, Josh," she laughed. "Doctor!" someone screamed behind the crowd that surrounded me. Dr. Harris made her way through and kneeled down. I didn't see why until I managed to push people out of the way. Someone was lying on the ground, his eyes wide open. I could tell they saw nothing. "He just dropped," said the girl who'd called for the doctor. "He was fine." Dr. Harris checked his pulse, and then she began CPR. "He was fine," the girl repeated. He was fine, and I wasn't. Now I was fine, and he wasn't. He was alive, and I was dead. Now I was alive, and he wasn't. The paramedics took the boy's body half an hour later. His girlfriend, I assumed it was his girlfriend, was around my age. I knew that much, at least. I didn't know their names, despite the fact I'd lived in this neighborhood for a year. I only knew Dr. Harris because she came over every weekend to hang out with Christy. I helped my roommate clean up the glass in the living room, and then we sat on the couch and took stock in the fact we'd survived our first tornado together. Christy was my best girlfriend. We used to work together at a movie theater, though she quit a while ago. I, however, just couldn't leave that place. I constantly told her that she and her husband Barry would get back together soon, not only because she was 7 months pregnant, but because Barry was a good guy. He was staying with a friend until things got less crazy. I checked the news again. I assumed the storm front passed us by, but wanted it confirmed. My heart skipped a beat when I saw a demolished building in a familiar location, just off the freeway. It was the movie theater. "Is that our movie theater?" Christy asked. I looked at her, completely out of it. "I'm jobless," I said quietly. "And people could have been hurt," she reminded me. "Of course." I coughed, even though I didn't need to. I'd been accused numerous times of being born without the ability to sympathize. "But how am I going to pay rent now?" "We'll get by." "Today's just not my day," I said, taking a moment to be selfish. "I died and lost my job. Can it get worse?" "How do you feel?" "Alive, I guess. My head still hurts." "Maybe you should go to the doctor." "I would, but our neighborhood doctor said I'm fine." "She sure looked at you weird, huh?" "The way you're looking at me now?" I joked. "Sorry. It's just crazy seeing you here. You were totally dead." You look like you were asleep, but I knew you weren't. I'm really surprised Dr. Harris wrote me off as okay after what happened. I should be in a hospital, even though I hate them. Well, she said she'd check on you later today. Did you see the way she looked at you after that guy died, though? The doorbell interrupted me. I could see Dr. Harris through the door's window. Christy let the doctor in. She was a pretty, middle-aged woman with light brown hair streaked with white. She and Christy played a fantasy role-playing game every Saturday night with a few other friends. They often invited me to join them, but I liked my games of the video kind. How are you, Josh? The doctor asked. I stood and nodded. Good. Headache, but that's it. That's good. She looked back and forth between Christy and me. If you'll allow it, I'd like to examine you one more time. I remembered the last time I was examined. It was a physical for high school, and I didn't enjoy it. Can I keep my clothes on? At first she didn't appear to understand, but then she laughed. Yes, you can keep your clothes on. In fact, I insist you do. I'll check on Mrs. Darcy next door, said Christy. She's old and all. Dr. Harris smiled as Christy left us alone in the living room. She then sat next to me on the couch. I held up my arm again so she could check my pulse, but she ignored it. There's something I have to tell you, she said to me. Am I okay? You are. Now. Now? You did a brave thing, saving me from that tornado. It was nothing. I could feel myself blushing. It seemed like it was going straight for you, though. Dr. Harris looked off into the distance. It was. I looked at her curiously. Of all the things I'd expected her to say, that wasn't even on the list. What? Instead of answering, she looked at the TV. I loved that theater. Too bad it's gone. She sounded distracted and was clearly changing the subject, but I decided to play along. I work there. Well, I used to. She looked at me. I'm sorry, dear. She perked up. If you're in need of a job, I may know someone who can hook you up. I perked up too. What kind of job is it? Security for a very nice community. Oh. I didn't know what to say. I'd never thought of being a security guard before. I didn't know any personally and was only familiar with ones who worked in malls or the ones in movies who always got killed by the bad guys. Are you interested? Dr. Harris asked, reminding me she was there. Yes, please. Is the community close? She thought for a moment. It's closer than it seems. Okay, I'd appreciate the help. I'll get right on it. She patted my hands again before walking to the front door. Doctor, I called before she could leave. She turned to me. Am I going to be okay? You worried me earlier. She smiled and nodded. You're going to be fine, Josh. I promise. And call me Shay.